A few little fiends leapt out of the cave afterwards, and when they saw that the water had receded, they began to play there happily, shouting and hollering, boxing with their fists, and wielding their rods and lances. So this water never reached the inside of the cave, said the Devaraja. And all our efforts have been vain. Pilgrim could not restrain the anger flaring up in his heart. Wielding both his fists, he dashed up to the door of the demon and shouted, "Don't run away. Watch out for a beating." These several little fiends were so terrified that they all dropped their rods and lances to dash into the cave. Trembling all over, they made the report. "Great King, it's terrible. He's going to give us a beating." Holding high his long lance, the Demon King went out of the door to meet his adversary, saying, "This brazen ape is such a rascal. You have lost to me several times, and not even your water or fire can touch me. Why is it that you have still come to give up your life?" "My son is twisting the facts," said Pilgrim. "I don't know whether I'm the one who will give up my life, or whether you are the one. Come over here and have a taste of your old grandpa's fists. This monkey is desperately forcing the issue," said the demon with a chuckle. "I'm using the lance, but he is using only his fists. That pair of hands is nothing but skin and bones, and no bigger than walnut pits. How could you call them pounders?" All right. I'll put down my lance and box with you." Laughing, Pilgrim replied, "That's the way to speak. Come up here." Hitching up his clothes and walking forward, the fiend assumed a boxing posture. His two fists upraised looked truly like two iron sledgehammers. Our great sage also loosened his legs at once and moved his body to attack. Right before the cave entrance, he began to box with the Demon King. This was quite a fight. Aha! The forelimbs are stretched out. The double-kicking feet fly up. They pound the ribs and chests. They stab at galls and hearts. The immortal pointing the way. Lao Tzu riding the crane. A hungry tiger pouncing on the prey is most hurtful. A dragon playing with water is quite vicious. The Demon King uses a serpent turning around. The great sage employs a deer letting loose its horns. The dragon plunges to earth with heels upturned. The wrist twists around to seize heaven's bag. A green lion's open-mouthed lunge. A carp's snapped back flip. Sprinkling flowers over the head. Tying a rope around the waist. A fan moving with the wind. The rain driving down the flowers. The monster spirit then uses the Guanyin palm. And Pilgrim counters with the Arhat feet. The long punch, stretching, is more slack, of course. How could it compare with the short, sharp jabs? The two of them fought for many rounds. None was the stronger, for they're evenly matched. As the two of them boxed in front of the cave entrance, those standing high on the peak were so thrilled by the spectacle that Devaraja Li shouted bravos, and the Star of Fiery Virtue clapped his hands in acclaim. Then the two Thunder Squires and Prince Na-A led the other deities in rushing forward and tried to help their colleague. On the other side, the little monsters immediately surged forward also to cover their master, waving banners and beating drums, wielding swords and brandishing scimitars. When the great sage saw that the situation might turn against him, he yanked off a handful of hairs from his own body and tossed them into the air, crying, "Change!" At once they changed into some 50 little monkeys, who swarmed all over the demon, grabbing his legs, tugging at his torso, gouging his eyes, and pulling at his hair. The fiendish creature became so alarmed that he immediately took out his fillet. When the great sage and his companions saw that object, they mounted the clouds at once and fled toward the tall summit. Tossing the fillet up into the air, the fiend changed those 50 monkeys back into their true forms, and then they were sucked away again with a loud whoosh. After he had gained this victory, the fiend led his troops back to his cave, closed the door, and celebrated. "The great sage son is still a marvelous fighter," said the prince. The way you box, it's truly like adding flowers to the embroidery, and the way you use your body division magic is indeed the display of nobility before others. As you watched from afar, said Pilgrim, smiling. How did the abilities of the fiend compare with Old Monkey's? His punches were slack, said Devaraja Lee. And his kicks were slow. He certainly could not match the great sage for his speed and tightness. He was quite flustered already by the sight of our arrival, and when he saw your magic of body division, he grew even more desperate and resorted to his fillet. It's simple to deal with the Demon King, said Pilgrim. But it's difficult to overcome that fillet. Both Fiery Virtue and Water Lord said together. If we want to win, we must acquire his treasure first before we try to arrest him. How could we acquire his treasure? Asked Pilgrim. Unless we try to steal it. If we want to practice the ritual of stealing, said a Thunder Squire, chuckling. There is no one more able than the great sage. Remember that year when you caused great havoc in heaven, how you stole imperial wine, immortal peaches, dragon's liver, phoenix's marrow, and the elixir of Laozi. What a talent that was! Today is the time to put that to use again. Thanks for the compliment, said Pilgrim. Thanks for the compliment. If that's what you think we should do, take a seat here and let Old Monkey go to make some investigation. Dear great sage. He leapt down from the peak and crept up to the cave entrance. With one shake of his body, he changed himself into a tiny fly. Truly graceful. Look at him. His wings thin as skin of bamboo. A body small like a flower's heart. His arms and his legs just thicker than hairs. Beady eyes, both shining and bright. Good at chasing scent and fragrance. He flies swiftly riding the wind. His frame barely pulls down the steelyard weight. So cute, he's even of some use. Ever so lightly he flew up to the door and crawled inside through a crack. There he found many fiends, young and old. Some were singing and dancing, while others stood in rows on both sides. Sitting high on his throne was the old Demon King, and before him were placed dishes of serpent meat, venison, bear paw, camel hump, mountain vegetables, and fruits. There were wine pots made of blue porcelain, from which came fragrant goat's milk and coconut wine. In big bowlfuls he and his other fiends were drinking with abandon. Dropping down into the crowd of little fiends, Pilgrim at once changed into a badger head spirit, and inched his way toward the throne of the Demon King. He looked everywhere for a long time, but he could not discover where the treasure was placed. Dashing behind the throne, he found the fire dragons and fire horses hung up high in the rear hall, all whining and neighing. As he raised his head, he suddenly saw his own golden hooped rod leaning against the east wall. So delighted was he by this discovery that he even forgot about changing into his true form before running forward to seize his iron rod. Only after he had picked it up did he reveal his original form and fought his way out with his rod. All those fiends were terrified, while the old Demon King was caught completely off guard. Thus Pilgrim was able to push down 3 monsters on one side and bring down 2 on the other. Opening up a bloody path, he went directly out of the cave. So it is that the demon, so arrogant, lets down his guard. The lordly staff returns to the rightful man. We don't know whether good or evil will befall him. Let's listen to the explanation in the next chapter.